Hello, and welcome back to another streaming data quality series. Today, I have the absolute pleasure to be joined by a legend in the data quality space, Ms. Frances O'Rafferty. And today, we're going to be digging into a key topic I think that's relevant now more than ever as Gen AI becomes such a prominent topic around turning data chaos into data controls and data improvements. So we're going to spend a little bit of time today talking about how you can master data quality and streaming, some of the experiences Frances has had throughout her career and the ways that she's seen this play out, advising both in her times on the practitioner side as a consultant at Accenture and in her current role. Before we jump in, would love for you to do a little bit of an introduction for yourself. Maybe tell the audience something that they can't find about you on LinkedIn. And most importantly, tell us, who's your favorite Avenger?
Oh, good questions. So I guess I'll start with the Avenger. I don't necessarily have a favorite Avenger, but my kids are huge Avengers fans, and they would say Black Widow, Spider-Man, and the Hulk, and they would all live up to those personalities. Which is great. The background of me, I guess more people know this now, but I always wanted to be a dancer. So my roots were always like, I talk about in my childhood, I danced. That's what I did. Then I kind of got to sort of pick that kind of university bit. Was I going to dance school? Was I going to university? And I went and did a maths degree, and everyone's like, dance and maths, okay, right? But there's lots of they're both about good foundations, right? And then so I kind of see some parallels, but yeah, until the age of 18, I don't think I'd even thought about anything other than dance as a career. So with that in mind, I went to uni, did some math stuff, realized I really liked problem solving, and I graduated in the recession in 2008, 2009, and I moved to London to work in consulting and data, and I got there and worked my way through it and found out how the consulting world works, what data is all about. Wasn't really something that I had a lot of background experience in. And I think the main lesson I learned was if you want to do good data work, you want to be able to make decisions from the data that you've got, you actually have to do a hell of a lot of work to get the data in the right state, because I've lived through data warehouses, single customer identifier programs, data architecture, data modeling, data catalogs, and now I'm very much pushing on kind of how we do data product, and obviously proactive data quality management is really important in that kind of data product world.
So I mean, I don't know, you tell me. I think I'm a good dancer, but I think there's a lot of parallels between dancing, the moves, the teachings, the choreography, into what goes on to be a great data scientist. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's very trial and error. I'll give you that.
Stepping on a lot of toes, right? Making
exactly.
Beautiful moves. So good segue. Tell me, let's get into the first topic. I think, as we shifted, I'm old enough to remember as network convergence and network transformation was coming about, and bring your own device and mobility came about. And then we went to the big data era, right? Data analytics, machine learning. Now we're in this era of, real-time data, and how do you apply data more proactively versus reactively? And quality management processes around data quality is a huge element of that. So can you start us off a little bit around moving from, kind of a reactive state of fixing data or using data to fix things to now more of a proactive data quality management space? Take us through that a bit.
Yeah, and I think data quality was one of those things where we quite often, you'd go in, there'd be this kind of lack of trust in the data. It doesn't really look like what we see in the real world. Let's do kind of some investigation. We'll do some profiling. We'll do some kind of remediation. We'll fix it. And then the profiling kind of keeps happening. But then usually what you'd find is kind of 6 months later, someone would do another program to remediate some other data that had gone wrong. And I think it's kind of gone through that cycle of kind of remediation. And it was okay when you had batch, right? And things could get outdated, but now we're getting data so fast, the ability to actually spot the quality issues early and then to actually get them fixed quick enough to keep up with the rate at which we want to move the data is becoming harder and harder. So where I see the kind of proactive data management is about the constant observation of your data. So, and that is observation of the data required for your use case, not just profiling your columns and saying these columns are good, these columns are bad, but what is actually required for your use case, and is that actually can you actually intercept the quality issues that are going to impact your use case as early as possible in the process. So I think there's a couple of things that you kind of need to think about. There's the understanding what the critical data is for that use case. Then how good does the data actually have to be for that use case? It probably doesn't have to be perfect. What are the thresholds that you want to set? Might be different for every field. It might be different for combinations of fields within the business rules. But what are the quality checks that you need to kind of the non-negotiables that they need to hit? Then putting the business rules over the top of those. So yes, the data foundation is good, but do they combine in the way I'd expect them to? So those kind of integrity checks. Then the most important bit is, are you telling someone about it? It's great if you know your data is wrong, but then is anyone aware? Like, are they going and opening up a dashboard every 5 minutes and checking? Or, it has to be alert driven. If to manage with streaming in real time, you need alerts that are coming through at the same latency as your data. So I know we had a challenge a while ago where we had data coming through and the actual data quality analytics took longer to run than the data did. So your latency between your quality reporting and your actual data has kind of got misaligned. So we had to do some work around the data quality to sort of say, right, how do we simplify it and how do we improve the code that's running there to get that running at the same latency that the data is? And then really it's about trying to do that incremental validation rather than do a big batch, check it, remediate it, big batch, check it, remediate it. So that's kind of where I see the proactive data quality management being what I think it is, how I work with it. Yeah.
I love it. So don't keep everything in my spreadsheet and hide it from my CEO. That's one of the things I'm hearing.
Pretty much.
Now I can understand his frustration with me, or one of them. So you mentioned this, but kind of building on the shifting from reactive to proactive, trust, right? Trust in humans is, more critical more than ever, I think, as we've gone to hybrid work environments, distributed workforces, but trust in data and, how do you categorize? How do you gather and put the things, in the columns, the rows, the multi-vector databases, right? How do you put trust in that? So I think, could you expand on that a bit around, how do you build trust in multi-vector databases, humans, processes, with the goal of obviously starting to move with more speed and precision and leverage automation? So what does that sound like? How do you consult around that?
Yeah, so I think trust is a very human thing. And it's about what people are seeing in the data reflecting what's actually happening in the real world. So do they feel that it's consistent with what they're experiencing? Do they feel like it's accurate from things they've seen before? I think especially where something's changed, making sure they know why it's changed is really important. So it is fine, things will change, but I think you build trust by explaining the differences. So that's one of the things that I spend a lot of time on is how do you articulate the differences? The other thing, I guess, is, you've got to want people to go to the data and not just have the gut feel about it. So how do you kind of make sure that the data is giving them the nice gut feel as well? So it's about getting people to know their data well enough. It's about the data matching what they're seeing in the real world. So I guess if I think of an example where, we are looking at gas meters, for example, in AI, right? If you have sent it data that is trusted, that's been checked, that has all of the kind of quality metrics ticked off, you'll classify it correctly, you'll get the instant advice, there'll be very few safety concerns raised, you'll resolve it quicker, customer will be happy, model gets better because you've trained it better. If you're using bad data, you almost lose that trust straight away. So by not having the quality, you are getting misclassification, you then get the poor advice, you potentially have safety impacts, you have rework, you have increased cost to fix, and you have the reduced customer satisfaction, and you're training the model to be worse. So it all comes back to, you have to work out what it's going to take for the people in your team to trust it, and then integrate those checks into the data that's coming into the system.
Are there, and this is really lovely, and some of the things I'm hearing you say kind of goes almost to, Simon Sinek, like the golden circle of why, how, what, so getting people to understand the why, and, how do you use it, and what are the things you start to do with it? Are there kind of tips or tricks or thoughts you have around for people that may be, kind of transitioning to shifting from batch to streaming, or, beginning down the journey of better chunking strategies to improve their AI, right? Outputs. What are some of the low hanging fruit things, or how do you think about, techniques to get trust to start to be developed between people and data? Because I think we're always going to have biases of past bad data experiences, right? For salespeople, the quote is always wrong, right? We know that. But what are some of the tips or advice you'd give to people around how to get started?
Yeah, so I guess there's a bit around identifying, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a bit about identifying the actual cause of each of these issues. So if you just have one big pool of data quality issues, then you never quite know what's wrong. You just know there's a lot wrong. If you can start to chunk that up and say, right, these ones are caused because of duplications. These ones are caused because this data was missing from the extract, and therefore we have a load of missing data here which doesn't join up. This one is because there wasn't enough validation on the front end and we need to add some extra things there. So you start to identify and categorize it. The problem gets a bit smaller. You can then work on that a bit more incrementally. You then work with kind of the teams to either improve, like get rid of duplicates. Why are you getting duplicates? Let's stop it working. Let's remediate that. But it's, if you can categorize them and then you can automate the routing of them, whilst kind of fixing forward, doing the remediation, the whole thing seems a bit more manageable. And you can also then communicate, well, our data was 97% accurate today. The 3% was 1% in duplicates, 0.5% in this. And again, that just kind of gives people a bit more, okay, it's not 100% right, but we know where the issues are and I can go and talk to this person about what the issue might be. So yeah, it becomes less about 100% accurate, and it's more about 100% knowing what the problems are.
I love it. So if I'm playing back in my world, I'm right. The quote is always wrong, right? Yeah. So now give me the inverse. So that was beautiful around. It's always wrong, right? So that's what good looks like. Can you share? You've seen obviously a lot of different people in different stages of their data maturity journey. I don't want to say what does bad look like, but what are some of the ones where you've gone in and gone, wow, this is a bit of a mess? What does not so good look like?
Yeah, usually it's things where, especially legacy systems, where there just hasn't been validation. People putting, spaces in instead of like, you can't accept a null in this field. We've put validations on it. It'll never be null. Oh, somebody's put a space or a dot or something else, right? So it's not just about making sure that it's complete, it's about making sure it's valid as well. There are ones where we've seen there are bits on the front end which will stop users from entering things incorrectly, but there are many ETL jobs running in the background that are allowed to put in values which are not valid, and that it hasn't necessarily, the same standards haven't been applied everywhere. So again, it's about, as you're kind of doing your data management strategy, are your front end applications and your back end applications being held to the same accountability, and how does that all work through? So I guess they're probably the most common ones. Duplicate seems to happen a lot as well. Just the ability to kind of deduplicate data. Effective dates is usually a big one. There's usually it's usually the fact that systems have so many different effective dates in, and different tools have picked up, or different processes have picked up different effective dates, and then they clash with each other. And then it's a lot of it's unpicking the architecture and the data flows that exist, and not always just, I think people often think of it as it's just people typing stuff in wrong, and if they typed it in right, it'd all be fine. But it's usually bigger than that.
Yeah, well said as always, my friend. I was in we just got back from Miami at the Millennium Alliance event and talked to a lot of amazing customers. One of them was describing this problem. He said it was very synonymous with like trying to run a 3-star Michelin restaurant, You could have the best cook making the best ingredients. But if it gets plated sloppy, or if it gets brought out in a haphazard way, that will diminish the experience. So if you have the, incredible, impeccable standards on the way you season, prepare, cook, but you don't have the same impeccable standards of how you present, greet, and, bring that experience to your consumer, then probably not going to get those 3 stars. And, you'll suffer from the repeat customer. You won't build that trust, right? And it's very similar if you think about, the art and science of what we're trying to do, or what people are trying to do, with data and transforming it into insights and differentiation, right? I don't think I have not met a single customer yet that says, we don't have enough data. That's really the problem. We don't have data. Which back in the day, I think, you did hear people say that, right? But the problem has evolved.
It's funny. It reminds me of a slightly different topic, but that analogy I've used a few times to be like, we've created this amazing thing, but no one's shouting about it because we're all too quiet and too shy to go and say, hey, we've got this amazing data set, like everyone come use it. And it's that final service. How do you get that final step of data to get that adoption and get the traction? Like that's sometimes the hardest thing.
It is, it's the front of the house has to be connected with the back of the house, right? And I think, we're all on this service as a software evolution, and, and I also love eating and cooking. So it's an easy one for me to relate to. So hey, this is a good segue. So think about now, again, I think one of the oldest sayings in the book, right? People, processes, systems coming together to help build beautiful companies and capabilities and experiences. So as you think about the next chapter of securing, scaling, and automating data, or improving the process of getting data quality, getting out of the chaos. How do you think about aligning? How do you advise or think about aligning people, processes, and automation to create greater scale and greater efficiencies around data quality?
Yeah, so I think the people one is probably the hardest one. And I say that because you can come up with a process. You can say, right, we're going to categorize them. We're going to automate the routing. So you've done the automation. It's going to go there. And then someone's going to do something with it. At some point, there's somebody that has to care. You talk about people entering data. You talk about the end users. You talk about the people in between. If you can get everyone understanding that data quality is a team effort, right? It's everyone's responsibility, from data entry right through to the end user, all the transformations in the middle, and you get people thinking about the quality at each point, just doing simple things, checks for uniqueness, checks for completeness, understanding the use case right the way through of what your data is being used for. And I think sometimes with data, we've done a bit of, I've done my bit, chuck it over the fence, next person do their bit, chuck it over the fence, next person do their bit, chuck it over, which is why I actually really like this data product approach that we're getting to now, where it's actually, there is somebody that's thinking about the holistic thing that you're trying to create and taking some accountability for it and bringing the team along. So I think there is a bit of a culture shift in the people space. I think the processes that we have for data quality, I don't feel have significantly changed. We've adopted new technology, we've got things working quicker, we've got more automation, but I think the people bit is how do we get that culture shift so that everyone realizes that data quality is only going to get better when we all do it together. And again, with the more use case focus on it now, the more and more of it is becoming much more cross-functional collaboration. So how do you understand that if I put some information into my product system, how does that flow through to my other systems, to my billing systems, etc.? And does it all join together? Do we have consistency across it all? And then I think the biggest thing with that is getting the transparency, because I think at the minute people can't see it. They can't see that journey from beginning to end. So if we can highlight that journey more transparently so that people can actually see, oh, I entered that there and that's what happened. Oh, okay, I see why I shouldn't do it, and that the process should be this. Because, sometimes we're all human. If there's an easier way of doing it, we think we're really clever because we've come up with an easier way of doing it. We don't realize that actually that could cause consequences later.
Yeah, the cause and effect, right? The butterfly effect. I think, there's aspects, beautiful companies have been doing chaos engineering or shift left capabilities across security testing, across resilience, reliability testing. But That fail fast, fail earlier approach, injecting problems into things, I think helps with some of that. And then we talk about this a lot, rewarding mistakes, rewarding people that raise their hand and say, hey, I don't understand. This unknown thing has happened. Can I get feedback on that? A great mentor, Susan St. Ledger, used to talk a lot about, feedback's gold, but, you got to be willing to expose yourself and raise your hand when you really need feedback, versus just, seeking, information to kind of keep moving on, right? You got to be able to raise your hand and be comfortable being uncomfortable. And in data, I think, or in the aspect of data quality, we're all trying to go so fast. We're all trying to move on to the next problem, right? It's not like, again, I've never met someone yet that says, we don't have any problems. We're kind of looking for some problems right now. I don't think that exists yet. So segue with me a bit. So talked a lot about, the current state. If you look forward, right, let's jump in our Back to the Future outfit in a second. Let's go to the future. What is the future of data quality? How do you think about, what streaming and AI, I think it comes up quite a bit now. How do you see that playing out over the next 12, 24, 36 months?
So I definitely see data quality being a topic that's been discussed more. And I think it's been discussed more in that use case based approach. So I think AI in particular has given everyone this focus on what are the use cases, what's good, let's prototype this, let's see what works, and then let's feel confident about dropping it if it's not very good, and we'll progress the ones that are good. Now, I think that data quality will play a bigger role in that. I think we'll still have profiling over source data, but I think we will also have data quality embedded into each stage of the data as it makes its way into the AI models, etc. I think in real time and both in AI, I think it's going to be more focused on what do we care about and how much do we care about. I think where we've previously kind of gone, we need all the data for absolutely everything. We need full history. I think actually, again, the volumes of data, the specificity of the use cases will actually get us to really focus in on specific periods and specific problems, which we want to make sure we've got good enough quality to solve. So that I do find it much more, it's going to be much more focused around use case. And I think a really good one that I came across recently was if you are looking at your customers' details, for example, and you just want to send an email, marketing email, or you want to stick some information on a portal or something a bit more friendly, right? If you've got a nickname in your database, or you've got like an incomplete name, there's no middle name, etc., then that's fine. My bank account has had my maiden name on, and I've been married for nearly 10 years, and it still shows my maiden name on one of the pages because it's not consistent. So yeah, it's like things like that probably don't really matter. But if I'm doing some credit scoring on my customer, I actually need that information to be 100% right. It needs to match the legal documents. Otherwise, we get a credit score back, then that's just going to cause detriment to the customer because it's going to come back as a lower credit score if we don't have the right customer information. So they're two very different use cases, which actually require different levels of DQ on exactly the same data fields. So that's always one that I quite like as just brings it to life a little bit.
I love that. That's a really great one. Staying in that same thread, what type of gamification or what type of ways do you think, or have you heard or consulted people on around how do you bring a bit of fun and natural competition? Because I think, simple, I heard a couple of beautiful ones. One engineer, and again, at the Millennium Alliance was saying they made all of their engineers start to write their reviews and peer reviews leveraging AI. Another one was any new idea that was being presented. It was, what role could AI play in this? So it had to be in the forefront of, problem statement, situation, opportunity, and, how could AI, whether it's a co-pilot piece, whether it is content creation, but like what role could AI play to make this faster and iterative? What type of fun ways have you heard about people trying to bring some of these use cases to life?
Yeah, so I think again, like some of it's probably scenarios, right? Get AI to help you come up with some of these scenarios, right? Because there's so many scenarios around one one or two data attributes, you could have so much fun going through and basically saying, right, I've got these attributes with these quality issues. What could the impacts be downstream? And I think helping us think ahead of, it's not just about good data at source, it's about what it means later on and where could it go wrong and those sort of things. I've seen a lot of leaderboards. Leaderboards are still really, really popular. So, each domain or each source has a leaderboard, and they compare like who's got the best quality, who's got the and I think with product management as well, in terms of like, you don't want to create like 3 different products which do the same thing as in any market, right? You want to be the leader, you want to be the best one. So you want to be able to show that your data quality for your product is so good that if somebody came along with a competitive product which basically did customer data in a different way, then people would still want to use yours. They just ask for you to add the extra bits of theirs in. And it's about evolution and how do you kind of keep evolving it rather than letting the competition come in. So I quite like in the product space that we're doing a lot of that, as who's holding the kind of market share in this domain or this area or serving this bit of the business. We do a lot of AI hackathons as well. So, get everyone into a room. What could we do in terms of the kind of quality here? How can we do lineage maps back as well? Like, what can we do to kind of, lots of the tools now are letting you kind of connect directly into databases, ETL tools, pull all the metadata out and then have a play around with it. So, there's plenty of use cases there.
That's really great. So let's do this. I got a couple questions in the chat, but if anybody has specific questions, please put them in. The first one I think is definitely for you. So when you think about back to the people part, I think that's clear to all of these things. People make great companies, make great products, make great services. What do you think you need in terms of a team for successful proactive data quality? Like what are the skills, or how do you think about building those teams?
Cool. Right. Well, I think for this one, let me go back to your Avengers at the start. So if we start with Iron Man, I'd say he's your lead man. He's got the technology, the expertise. He's going to innovate. He's going to keep you staying ahead. But alongside him, you need your Captain America. He's going to do the leadership, inspire, etc. Who else would you get? You need someone who's empathetic. I'm not sure which one's empathetic. Somebody who's there can empathize with the team and can protect everyone. A lot of people are told to do one thing and then told to do something else, and you change the process to make the quality better. And it's kind of, you need someone who really cares enough to take them on the journey. And then maybe someone like Black Widow for the strategic thinking and the ability to like dive and uncover the hidden bits that you won't even know if you're really looking for it. I think with data quality, sometimes you just need someone who's passionate about finding the issue, because it's not always glaringly obvious what's caused it. So that would be what I make up the team.
My daughter and son would love that answer, by the way. Can you explain, I think that you and I talked about this one, and this one just came up. Can you explain a bit more about data quality debt? So you talked I think when we first met, right, talked about technology debt, the data debt, the kind of institutional debt that goes on. Could you expand a bit about, how do you think about data quality debt? How does it accumulate? And what are the practical ways to manage or reduce it over time?
Yeah, so if I take data debt separately, so data debt by itself, I think starts to, you've got stuff wrong with your data, it's going to start to erode trust, right? In any aspect of your data landscape. Data quality debt in particular, there is a bit of me that, especially now, is like, I really lean on, do we care, right? There will be some where the answer is yes, we really care about fixing it. But there'll be other times where it's like, well, actually, as long as we get on top of the next batch, because we're all moving forward as businesses. Yes, there'll be some analysis you want to do on the historical stuff, but that's not going to come into it's not necessarily going to come into your real time. It's not coming into your streaming, right? So especially in that space, it's, do you care? Is it costing you money? Is it slowing down a change program? Is it actually causing impact to the insights you're getting out of it? So ask yourself those questions. If you don't care, don't fix it, don't worry about it, put it to a side, forget about it. If it is impacting those, then it is very much looking at, right, how quickly can you fix it? What's the best ways to do it? What's the root cause? So similar to what I was talking through at the beginning, understand the root cause, fix it so it stops happening again, remediate it, and then monitor it going forward. What you might get is if the fix forward is quite a long lag, you might find that you get almost tactical teams doing some of the remediation while the fix forward is still happening. Not ideal, but it does happen when those things take a while to fix. But yeah.
And then you got your gotchas, right? You're going backwards. Yeah. I get it. So let's do this. As always, my friend, it's great to catch up with you. It's wonderful to see you. Thank you for sharing your experiences, your insights. It's always fun talking to you. Closing thoughts from me, just kind of playing back some of the things, we talked a little bit about the role, obviously, data and people with data are playing into transforming companies, building out Gen AI strategies. But really, I think starting to go from, the chaos and the mess of what data has largely been across debt, silos, poor understanding of things like data lineage, to now it being paramount for many reasons: the cost, the innovation, the speed at which we're trying to turn data into insights, whether it's for direct or indirect monetization, or if it's just, again, better for LLM outputs. The art and science behind it is, I think, more important than ever. The thing I think you spoke very well about, and you've talked in Baringa, I think you consult on this, is how do you, really start to get a handle of the current state of where you are in your data maturity journey, your approach to harnessing some of the values, the processes, and doing things with greater speed and repetition. But, I think being comfortable with the failures and mistakes and then trying to learn from them, I think is important. And then, most importantly, the most important Avenger is Iron Man, right? Obviously. Anything else you'd like to add in the kind of summary or thoughts you were thinking as we did this?
Just evaluate, understand what your data quality is, proactively assign those quality checks to use cases, automate where you can, and work together. I think that was kind of the key things.
I love it. And so again, thank you for everybody for being with us on this episode of Streamlining Conversations in and with Data. If you are interested to learn more about the ways we can help, or Conduktor specifically can help around data quality, around shift left capabilities, and helping better protect and apply your data, please reach out. We'd love to see what we can do to help you. And if you are in need of some incredible consulting work, please reach out to Francis and Baringa. I think they can help you, again, transform wherever you are in your current state to your aspirational places of where you hope to go. Looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you for being with us. See you soon.
See you.